This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. Here we are again.
So I remember a few years ago seeing a documentary on the flu epidemic that's going to be Frank's next story. And they were concerned. There were graves that they were going to exhume, I think in Norway, and they were afraid the flu virus was still alive in those graves for whatever reason. You know, the science is beyond me. But that pandemic, of course, made worse by the fact that you've got people traveling all the time. You know, World War I was one of the first massive movements of people around the world, which is one of the things that enabled the epidemic. So it was like the perfect storm. So many things came together at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was, of course, we remember in the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages when, we had the bubonic plague, which wiped out the majority of Europe.
Yeah,
it really did.
Yep.
Millions of people, and then here we are in World War I, and now influenza comes.
In the modern era, we thought we were beyond something like the plague. We thought we had progressed past that, but man, that was not the case.
Yeah. So anyway, it's an interesting story, and well, anyway, I don't want to get ahead of myself, so let's take a look. Kansas is often considered to be ground zero for the 1918 pandemic, according to the flu.gov website. In late January and early February of 1918, a local physician in Haskell County noticed a rash of severe influenza cases. Although the physician had seen many cases of influenza throughout his career, these cases were extraordinary. Influenza, usually a mild disease, had suddenly become a killer. Over the course of the next 2 months, influenza ran rampant through Haskell County, cutting a swath among the county's residents. At the time, few public health experts viewed influenza as a threat, and local physicians were not required to report outbreaks to the authorities. However, this outbreak was so unusual that the local physician contacted the Public Health Service, sending them a report on the epidemic in his community. Back in Washington, officials viewed the outbreak as unusual enough to merit a mention in the service's weekly report on public health in the United States and abroad, but did not send anyone to investigate. By mid-March, the outbreak appeared to have run its course. A few medical journals published articles on the outbreak, but there was no real discussion of the outbreak. Kansas officials were not especially vigilant at monitoring influenza rates during the spring and summer. The country was at war, and farm boys from isolated communities, such as Haskell County, were on the move. During the spring, a soldier from Haskell County probably brought this new and virulent form of influenza to Camp Funston. By mid-March, Camp Funston was in the throes of an epidemic. More than 1,100 soldiers stationed there were ill, 38 that spring, a highly unusual rate. When the disease reemerged in the fall of 1918, Kansas officials reported cases throughout the state. A later report indicated 1,325 cases the first week of October, probably an underestimate. By the end of the month, 26,800 cases of influenza had been reported and deaths mounted. In Topeka, as elsewhere, hospitals overflowed with influenza patients, and several emergency hospitals were opened. These included hospitals at the Garfield School and the Reed Hotel. 2 infirmaries linked to Washburn College were opened, and the gym became an observation hospital. The secretary of the Kansas State Board of Health took swift action in an attempt to contain the disease. Schools, churches, and theaters were closed, while homes with ill patients were quarantined. In stores, customers were to be provided with 100 square feet to limit close contact, and the number of passengers allowed on streetcars was limited for the same reason. The disease peaked in the state during the late fall. It remained prevalent throughout the state during the winter and spring of 1919.
I was in an accident where I fell off a roof. I don't know why I started to research stem cells, but I did. And I visited with the doctors. They were excellent. I had my neck done, my shoulders done, section of my back, my hips, my sacrum, my sciatica, and my tailbone. Now I am having better range of motion in my arms and my neck and my back. It was a long road to get there, but I'm so glad that I found them.